So we'll get started. So I'm
Yeah.
Shannon Blackmon. I'm a certified financial planner, a registered life planner, and a certified financial therapist. And I work at Thomas Dahl, where I fulfill my calling to help people shift their mindset to manifest abundance. So at Thomas Dahl, we're dedicated to supporting the financial education of entrepreneurs and helping you to build holistic wealth. There's one real goal when it comes to wealth management, and that's financial freedom. So from tax planning to long-term wealth strategies, we guide entrepreneurs all throughout their life transitions. Through planning, process, and joyful collaboration, Thomas Dahl has got you covered, so you can live a life that's abundantly yours. So of course, the right numbers are essential for achieving financial freedom. But did you know that 80% of financial success is mindset? And the other 20% is math. And without the right mindset, it's really difficult to do the math. So I like to guide my clients through getting clear about their goals, their values, and to develop a powerful vision, because that vision is what's going to motivate you to make those changes that you might need to make. So today's session is going to be absolutely incredible. We're going to talk about creating financial self-care practices, and many of you have taken the Money Scripts inventory quiz. So we'll be talking about that. And I'm so excited because today my co-host is a phenomenal woman who many of you know. She's a mom, she's an orthodontist, and she's also a coach to high-achieving women in healthcare. And she's someone I'm so happy to call my friend, Dr. Tarry MacCarthy.
Oh, thank you so much, Shannon. This is such a gift to me. So I'm so excited to be here and so great to see so many friendly faces who I love and admire. So thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so pleased to have you here. And I'm especially excited to talk to you about this topic because it really aligns with the work that you do. Because you, like in your courses and your programs, you talk about the neurobiology of why we do what we do.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be sharing some of that this evening. And actually, Shannon and I have been collaborating quite a bit before this evening to figure out exactly what would best support each one of you in not only identifying your money scripts and then working through them a little bit, but also understanding what's actually happening. And exactly as Shannon said, why we do what we do, and then how we can empower ourselves to make new choices.
Yeah, yeah. And I'd love for you to share like what programs you have going on. Is there anything coming up? I'm really excited about that.
Oh, awesome. Thank you for asking. Yes, I'm doing actually a really cool workshop on May 5th, and it's called Untethered Finding Freedom in Dentistry. And really, the crux of it is understanding our fears and how to manage our fears around all kinds of things that might show up at work or at home. And then I have a 12-week program, which is just my absolute love of my life. It's such an amazing program. It's called Radical Happiness for Practitioners, and it is the how to of understanding your own mindset. And what we really focus on is not just the conscious awareness of what's happening in our thoughts and in our beliefs, and how to have them best work for ourselves so that we are supporting ourselves in our dreams. But we also dive into the subconscious, which is really exciting. That's where the magic happens. So, making some big changes in subconscious in order to serve ourselves, to serve us to find radical happiness in healthcare.
Wow, wow. And that ties in perfectly to what we're talking about today, because that's the definition of money scripts, right? There's these subconscious or unconscious beliefs that we've inherited from our parents, from society, and then that's what's affecting our behaviors today. Because as we know, it's like the tip of the iceberg, right? There's the conscious mind, which is the tip of the iceberg, but underneath the water is everything else, and that's the subconscious, and that's what's motivating us and driving us. And so a lot of the work that I like to do is befriending the subconscious, and we'll talk more about how to do that, but befriending the subconscious and really seeing what is it underneath that's driving my behaviors. So researchers have done a lot of, and this is recent science, right? Because it used to be two different things. It used to be financial planning on one side and psychology on the other. And psychologists were always saying, like, why are people talking about money in our meetings? And financial planners are like, why are people talking about emotions and all these other things when it comes to their financial planning meetings? And so over the last, I would say 10 to 20 years, these fields are merged and started talking to each other, which is really, really interesting for me.
It's funny because my money vigilance is high, and I'm not so sure I think that's a bad thing.
No, actually, money vigilance, behind the money vigilance can be a positive thing, but just like everything, there's a light and a shadow, right? So the great part of money vigilance is that you're paying really good attention to money. You know what money's for, you know how it works, and you're very conscientious about it. The shadow is that you might not be enjoying it to the fullest, right? And so a good money practice for someone with a high money vigilance score would be to plan something really fun, like have a budget for fun money and plan something really fun with your loved ones, something wonderful. Also, I think money vigilance is sometimes associated with anxiety around money. And maybe Taryn has some tips about how to deal with anxiety around money.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to put on here those four types, just in case anybody doesn't know them. Yeah. So yeah, each one of these actually can have a component of it of anxiety, especially when we're talking, at any point, even money status, when money means to you a sense of status in your life. And so anxiety might be around comparison or fear. If your money, that number in your bank account changes, will it affect or impact your status? Or, even with money focus can also have components of it of anxiety or definitely money avoidance. And, we hear a lot about calming ourselves and our nervous system with things like breath work or meditation. And that's enormously powerful, regulating our nervous systems, because anytime anxiety comes in, what we're really talking about is your sympathetic nervous system, right? So, what's happening is your autonomic nervous system is getting spiked for some reason. There's a fear that's coming from your money stories, which we're going to get into. And then your sympathetic nervous system fires, and it's almost bypassing your intellectual brain. So you might know very clearly that your status hasn't changed, or that number in the bank account hasn't changed, or that maybe you haven't looked at your account for a few days, or maybe you've been incessantly looking at your account, and you can rationalize that it's nothing to worry about, and yet you still feel this underlying brewing anxiety. And meditation is an amazing, amazing resource for calming ourselves down and doing something called strengthening our vagal tone. So, vagal tone is just how quickly we can go from amped up sympathetic nervous system storm down to a parasympathetic, calm, rest and digest. And that's really the place we want to be when we're looking at our money, when we're talking about our money. We want to do it from a calm state. Well, meditation can be fabulous, but it's not always the best place to be actually working with your money. Because if you're in a meditative space, you're so calm that you can't really digest what's going on with the numbers. We're not in a place where we can actually be focusing intelligently on our numbers. We're kind of in a different brain wave. We're going into beta or maybe even delta brain waves, and where alpha or delta brain waves, where we want to be is in more alpha beta brain waves. So one way we can do that is remind ourselves that we can be calm and focused at the same time. So you don't have to be in a meditative state or an amped up state, we can actually have both. And so I have this great exercise I love to do, and I'd love for all of you to join me with this, to just remind ourselves that we can do both. We can be present with something we need to be paying attention to and calming down and regulating our nervous system at the same time. So I love this practice for any of the healthcare providers who are in the audience, for when you have a patient who's maybe activating you and you need to stay calm in that moment, or maybe a 15-year-old, wink, wink, I might have one of those in my life, who's activating you and you need to stay calm, but you're feeling the activation. I like that word instead of trigger. You're feeling your system activated, but you know you have to stay calm and focused in the moment. So you can't drop into meditation right away. So here's the practice. What I'd love for you to do is, maybe you have a pen or a pencil nearby. And of course, now I don't. You can use your thumb. But the idea is, you're going to hold that pen or pencil arm's length away from you. And you're going to stare at the very tip of the pen or pencil and really focus on the tip of the pen or pencil. And now what I'd love for you to do is take a nice deep belly breath. So bring both feet down on the floor. Take them, if they're cross-legged, uncross them for a moment. And I want you to just breathe in deeply and hold it at the top. Feel that fullness in your belly and in your chest. Hold it, hold it. And now exhale for me. Slowly, slowly, slowly exhale. The whole time, keeping your eyes focused on the tip of the pencil. Let's take another deep breath in. Hold it at the top. Really focus on that pencil tip. Hold it, hold it, hold it. And fully exhale. And on this exhale, I want you to just allow your shoulders to drop and relax, but keep that pencil steady. Keep your focus on the tip of the pencil and really concentrate on that pencil tip. I'm going to let you do the next breath on your own time, but I want you to just focus on filling, filling, filling slowly and intentionally, holding it at the top, and then exhaling. This time you can even exhale through your mouth, really slowly, like you're blowing out a candle. As you're doing this, I'd like you to just fall into your own breathing pattern, but with that same slow inhale, gentle inhale all the way to the top and holding it. And if you can concentrate on letting the exhale last a little longer than your inhale, just keep focusing on that pencil tip. You're doing awesome. Feel your nervous system just calming. Feel your heart rate just slowing. You're really feeling all the muscles in your body relaxing, but you're really paying attention to that tip of the pencil, really putting all your focus and attention on it, and recognizing you're able to do two things at once. You're regulating your nervous system, you're calming your body down, and you're paying close, close attention to the pencil tip. You haven't moved your eyes off of it. You're focusing on it, and you're keeping your arms steady and raised all at once. Good. You can lower your arm. And just for a moment, feel the calm in your body. Feel how the tension of the day has just dropped. And we didn't have to go into meditation. We just literally regulated our nervous system, but didn't stop paying attention to the tip of that pencil. So we remember in that moment, in the practice, we can do two things at once. We can be in presence with our money and calm ourselves down at the same time and be focusing on something. So you can even do it while you're doing dentistry. You can recognize and be aware, I'm really feeling the anxiety ramping up. And then use your breath to bring yourself back down to calm without having to take your focus off. mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but even my voice has slowed down just in doing this practice, recognizing myself that maybe I was excited with that great Corinne Bailey Rae song and bringing my nervous system back down. But I was concentrating the whole time on delivering this exercise to you. So, a couple components of the exercise, if you take this forward into your practice. Number one, the more you do it, the more you increase your vagal tone. So you're recognizing being amped up and you're bringing yourself back down to sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system state. So if you practice this on a daily basis, you'll be able to come back from stress state faster. So that's cool. The other thing is that arm's length distance is critical. When we have something close, what we're actually doing, if we're focusing on something very close to us, like teeth or the computer screen or cell phones, what we're actually doing is stimulating sympathetic nervous system storm. Whenever we're focusing on something really small or really close, our sympathetic nervous system is getting triggered. But if you've ever been on a mountaintop or at the beach, what's the first thing you do? Right? It's the first thing you do. Because when we're in front of a vista, our parasympathetic nervous system is stimulated. So by keeping our arm at that pencil at an arm's length, you're actually beginning to get to the range of stimulating your parasympathetic nervous system. So just another little tip when you're using this exercise to increase your vagal tone.
Wow. That is, first of all, it feels really good to maintain focus and calm down. And I can see how over time that would be such a great way just to train your body to and mind, like, oh, you can do these two things at once. But I'm also thinking just in my own life, how everything is a little bit closer, this is very close. And I didn't realize that that was activating the wrong system and actually making me feel stressed out, because it does feel like an energy drain.
Absolutely.
So I wonder if that is connected to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow.
Did
So
anybody feel different when they did that exercise?
I did until my dog read it. And I had to take it back. But I did. I did feel myself getting lighter and relaxed and sinking into the chair more.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, that's a wonderful exercise. So anyone else I tried to send a couple of these out. Is there anyone else that did not receive the results? Jen, did you receive your results? No? Okay.
I didn't receive mine either. Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to send them out now. I'm sorry about that. Let's see.
Maybe while you're sending them out, we can talk about another exercise.
Yeah, could you?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. So another great thing to do with money, and this is more in getting ready for working with your money. So, any of these great money types that we've identified, whether it's money status, money vigilance, money focus, or money avoidance. Another great way is to start with approaching your money with a new relationship. So I like to suggest, and one of the things that I know we're going to be talking about this evening is talking about journaling. I love to suggest, once you've identified what your money type is, maybe creating a new relationship with money. So it might be a journal prompt that you start with that sounds something like, "Dear money, it's not you, it's me." Kind of like a breakup letter with money, but then renegotiating a new relationship with money. So as we talk through tonight, we'll recognize that money itself is actually not the problem. I know we like to think like we live in a capitalist society and there's so many problems with capitalist society, or we blame money for a lot of our ills. But really, it's our own mindset around money that gives us back our autonomy and our power that we actually have within ourselves all the time. And so once we identify what our relationship with money is, we can actually take back our power by recreating our relationship with money and recognizing money itself has no control over us. Really, we get to decide the control. We get to decide the empowerment of the situation. And just as Shannon was saying, that every light part of us also has a shadow, and a shadow has the light. The shadow part of us, that uncomfortable part that has an uncomfortable relationship with money, is actually still part of us, still a very important part of ourselves. If you imagine, it's like that if you imagine, maybe we can use the analogy of having children. Maybe you have the dream child, the promised child who's excelling at everything she does, and she's the star, and she's, you know, musical and talented and easy to love, and, you know, emotionally available. And so we love that part of ourselves, that child part of ourselves that celebrates when we get money and celebrates when we succeed. But maybe you imagine that shadow side is kind of the kid you're keeping in the basement. It sounds terrible as a mom, but imagine that that's our younger self, our fearful self around money, that maybe we've pushed down to the basement. And every now and then that child will bang on the floor and we give her some attention. But the most important thing is if we can learn to love her, just that's what she's asking for. So remembering that our shadow selves, our challenging relationship with money, is really just a part of us that's asking to be loved. So when we write this letter about, dear money, it's not you, it's me, it's not a breakup letter forever. It's a renegotiating this relationship and understanding there was nothing wrong with you, money, at all to begin with. It was just my fear and my old money stories that we're going to get into that were really challenging this relationship. And I'm going to bring you along with me now, and we're going to do this together. And you have nothing left to fear. Instead of berating ourselves, berating our old money stories as being the source of all evil, remembering to bring that child up out of the basement and showering her with love, and understanding that some of these money stories were just stories to keep us safe. They were placed there because of fear, because of anxiety, stories that were established in our youth. But now that part of you just wants to be loved, and that we really don't have to hold blame or guilt or shame over those previous money stories. And we can do so in a really beautiful letter that's just forgiving money, forgiving that old money story. Now we know differently. So, dear money, it's not you, it's me. I now know differently. And now I know I can love you, and we can do this journey together. So, I love that exercise that helps, even believe it or not, on a subconscious level, because what we're doing is we're understanding that relationship and seeing it as a relationship and not an adversary. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's really wonderful. I love that exercise too, as a good journaling exercise. Yeah, neat. So one of the money script types, and I don't want to make these as like personality types, that this is who you are and this is how it's going to be, because you can change these things. And that's what the practices are about. But one of them is money focus. And it's not too, in our culture, we have a money focus, right? And so it's not too odd that people would also absorb those beliefs. But some of these statements were like, things would be better if I had more money. More money will make you happier. It's hard to be poor and happy. You can never have enough money. Money is power. Money would solve all my problems. And money buys freedom. So I don't know about you, but like some of those things seem kind of obviously true to me. So those were things where like, yeah, slightly agree to that, you know. And but it's kind of interesting because And Taryn, I think you wrote something recently about your experience as being a dental student and then realizing that money does not have any power. It actually does not have power. You could say a little
Absolutely.
bit more about that.
Yeah. It's interesting. I love the one statement you said is about happiness. Can you read that one more time?
Let's see. Was it things would get better if I had more money?
Well, that works along with it as well.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
I think many of these concepts are around happiness. And so, if I had enough money, then I'd really be happy, right? Or when I don't have enough money, that's when I can't be happy. And sometimes that fear of, especially like student loan debt and things like that, that can start robbing us of our happiness. But there's a book that Shannon and I were talking about earlier, and I'm going to mention one of the practices he talks about in the book, and we can kind of follow through with it and realize. So it's called The Illusion of Money, and it's by Kyle Cease, and I highly recommend it. It's excellent. And one of the practices he recommends in there, just to recognize that we're in charge of our own happiness and that actually money itself doesn't have any power over our happiness, is the following. So play with me on this one, if you will. So I want you just for a moment to close your eyes, if you will, or hood your eyes if you feel more comfortable. And let's just in this moment, just take in a breath, nice and easy, and exhale, just so we can kind of focus on this story and you can follow me. Shake your arms out a little bit, if you will. Just move from this one pattern and rest them gently in your lap, and maybe you feel the tingling in your fingers. I want you to imagine the phone rings. And as you answer the phone, the person on the other side says, I'm so excited to be speaking with you this evening. You have just won the Mega Millions lottery. Imagine that. You didn't even realize you played, but you just won the Mega Millions. In fact, this is one of those Mega Millions where you don't have to pay taxes. And isn't that incredible? Everything, all your money fears and worries are all going to be solved. Oh my gosh, I want you to just imagine for a moment, what would you do with that money? Where would that money go? With all the money, the Mega Millions, where would you put those resources? And how would your life change? And I want you to just feel what that feels like in your body. Feel what that feels like, that knowledge of support and outreach and connection with the people you love and the people you serve, how you could really make a difference. Feel how that feels in your heart. Feel how that feels in your body. What is it? Where can you feel that feeling in your body, that feeling of joy and excitement? In fact, if you were to give it a color, what color would you give that joy? What color would you give that happiness? Just breathe it in and exhale. Good. And I want you now to imagine that the phone rings again. And that same lovely, bubbly woman on the other line says, Oh, I'm so sorry for that phone call. It was the wrong number, one digit off. You didn't actually get the Mega Millions. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to do this to you. There's no money. And please play again. This is so exciting. We hope you win next time. Okay. And just feel that, what that feels like in your body. And I want you to just come back. You can open your eyes. And I want you to just realize there was no Mega Millions at all. This was just a game. This was just a silly little example. But you cultivated that excitement, that joy, that happiness, that dream, that beautiful generosity, all within yourself. There was no phone call. There was no Mega Millions, But you could create that beautiful idea in your body. You could create that feeling of joy and excitement in your body. And really, that means the empowerment and that excitement is within you. Money itself has no power. It's the story and the beauty within you that cultivated it. It's the dream that gets you excited. It's that gratitude of being able to deliver on your dreams. And we have access to that all the time. That joy and excitement that we tell ourselves money will give us is actually always within us. And I love that exercise because it shows us, yeah, you know what? I got really excited. I thought of all the people I could help. That's that beautiful part within you that's already there. You don't need a dime, it's already there. Yeah, I love that exercise.
Wow, that is tremendous. That's tremendous. It's just like you feel those changes in yourself, and then you realize, oh, you're right.
Yeah. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I was picturing all the cats that Vanessa was going to save.
That's 100% where I
Cat
went.
palaces that she was going to build.
100%. And I also noticed I felt constricted when you took it away. I noticed that I felt a little shut down. I thought that was interesting.
Thank you so much for mentioning that because that's our power as well. And 100% thank you for mentioning that. And that's when we get to bring our shadow selves forward again. And I love that beautiful conscious awareness that I know Vanessa practices on a daily basis. But the awareness of when we feel constricted is the superpower. Because what you get to do when you notice that feeling of constriction, that feeling of it is a fear, that fearful feeling that steps in, you can bring that little fearful inner child, because that's who she is. That's always who, whenever we're feeling a fear of loss or a fear of identity or not being good enough or something being taken away from us, it's really speaking to an inner child of ours that has that fear. And we can bring her along with us. So in that moment of constriction, if we can be aware of it, we can give ourselves a little bit of safety. Breath always helps me. That's my go-to. You know what? In this moment, you are safe. In this moment, you are safe. And recognize, what does that inner child, that fear, need in this moment? And so I love another beautiful practice that Danielle Laporte reminds us of, and we can do it in 15 seconds. When we recognize our shadow self speaking, when we recognize our fearful self speaking, just for a moment, you can and once again, we go to breath work and we go to closing our eyes because it's allowing us to be still with ourselves. So you can put your left hand on your belly, your right hand on your heart when you feel that little fearfulness coming in. And once again, I close my eyes just so that I can block out all the external stimulus so I can really focus. And I can breathe. And I can ask my inner child, what do you need right now? I notice that constricted feeling. I notice that fear. What do you need? And remind her that actually you're safe. We're here, stable and safe in this moment. I am safe. We are always safe in this moment. Our fearful self is always afraid of something in the future, some future loss, some future disappointment, something from the past that might repeat itself. But in this moment, I am safe. And if you allow yourself just a moment to be quiet, to listen to what she needs, often it's just a reminder that she's safe. Sometimes she'll say, I need to go outside. I need to play in the sun. I need to go for a walk. Maybe she's telling you something she needs to just get away from the heaviness. And if you give yourself the opportunity to listen and then the permission to take action, it gives you that power to come back to your money again. Sometimes that activation is a little too close to home. Sometimes it's still a money story we're working on. But when we have the courage to face that fear and not repress her, not push her down, not constantly push her back to the basement. I use that analogy on purpose because we never want to put a child in the basement. But in other words, allow that fear to come up and say, what is she afraid of? And remind her that actually she's safe. Remember, our younger selves didn't understand money when you were 5, when you were 7, when you were maybe 24. And maybe we're learning about money now. Maybe we don't fully understand money now, but we allow ourselves to evolve with understanding math, understanding language. We need to allow ourselves to evolve when it comes to money as well. So we can bring that 5-year-old who's afraid of money and bring her with us on this journey, reminding her, you're safe and I've got this. I'm here, my fully 47-year-old self. And now I can learn and understand, and I'm going to bring you with me on this journey. But what do you need to feel safe? Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that, Vanessa, because it's such an important part of it, is recognizing that awareness of when you are feeling constricted and fearful. Yeah, beautiful.
That reminds me that this is like we're learning about money and financial literacy is adult learning, because we don't come into the world knowing this. And it's very recent that some of these concepts like retirement and investing have even entered our vocabulary or in our communal consciousness. This is very recent. So we all have to learn as adults how money works. And you're right, a lot of us have had some sort of trauma or even just impressions about money that we learned just as children, right? And maybe we had parents that didn't talk about money, or maybe we had parents that fought about money. But we have these emotionally charged events that happened when we were children around something that we didn't understand. And we have to bring that little girl with us. I love that. I love that. It's amazing.
Yeah, really cool.
I wonder if any of you had, money messages that you learned growing up, or money beliefs that maybe weren't part of the quiz, but maybe there's things that you learned about money growing up that you would share.
Yeah, Sandra, go ahead, share yours. You can unmute yourself.
So I grew up very middle class, lower middle class, not knowing that we didn't go on vacations like some people did or whatever. And my money style happened when I got married, and realized that it's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. And I remember going with my mother to the supermarket and asking the cashier to subtotal her account, subtotal the order. And if it was over the amount that she had, she would take some things out, or if, and I didn't do that when I was first married until I realized that I had to. And so I had a good foundation. And I just think, that if people, if someone asked me why I am at my financial status that I am today, it would be because I learned budgeting, from a very early age. Is that what you were looking for?
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. And so sometimes the impressions can have positive effects on the way we are with money today. And so that's a really good example of learning something early on that you were able to kind of pull from your toolbox and implement. So that's a really great example. Yeah. Vanessa?
I'll share. Did you want another one?
Sure. Yeah.
So we had no money, but yet they had money because like my one parent worked and we had 5 kids. But yet everybody was poor in the community. So like Sandra, it's like we didn't know we were poor, but we're looking back, like we had nothing, but yet we had everything because what I saw my parents being very resourceful. I think that's made a difference on me today. You know, around money. I remember my dad had a safe in the floor. He was really handy. He built on this whole new part of our house, and in the cement, he poured a safe. And I remember him, so he would save cash, and he would have like tons of cash in the safe, even though they had no money. I mean, really, compared to today's standard, they had not much, but they taught us the value of work. We had a large poster in the closet. There's a big poster my mom created with every job she could think of around the house. And we get paid like 15 cents a row when we hoed a row of the garden, or like it was little amounts, but we had our own paycheck, or what do you call it? Like a time card they created. And for over every 2 weeks, my dad would get paid. And mom would cash his check and she'd bring cash home, and he would give us out like dollars and quarters and times our paycheck. So even as a little kid, we learned that we could earn our own money. And I think that made a big difference on me as an entrepreneur. Like I can dream really big as a result, because I can see that I could cut the hedges and make $5.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's another really positive example, because you know that you have the capacity to earn your own money. And that's a huge realization to have.
And there was not a complaint that we didn't have enough. You know, it wasn't like it was a feeling that we didn't have enough. I just recognized as an adult looking back. So I think similar to Sandra's situation, I think they handled it really well.
Neat. And there's studies that show that money really does not bring happiness. Like once you have the basics down, that's not what makes people happy. What makes people happy is spending time with the people that they love and building experiences. And so I think if we can remember that, we can kind of knock money off of its pedestal, realize again that does not have the power, and then really put our hearts where our happiness is. You know, yeah, wonderful.
But can I say, like, with the money, the thing that I did high on, you know, it's my son was recently laid off, and he, you know, there was a 18% reduction or whatever, and it was tough. It wasn't him at all. People reached out from him from 2 jobs ago, you know, I heard you lost your job, you know, I heard they, you know, let go 1,000 people, you know, if you need a referral, whatever. But it still affects you mentally. But you know what? He has $12,000 in an emergency fund for 6 months at 29 years old. And he was still affected, but money wasn't one of his concerns. You know, like he wanted to do. And so that's where I say that, yes, money does make your life better, because he didn't, I mean, he has to get a job, but he wasn't worried. I mean, when I worked in a hospital once, there were people that would go food shopping Wednesday night, and the money got into our checking account at like 8 a.m. Thursday morning, and they would, you know, pay by check for that money to be in the checking account Thursday morning. And that's a horrible way to live.
Right.
So, you know, so that's kind of why I think I score so high, because, you know, it was great. He went to, you know, he was able to find a new job and be happy without the stress of, how am I going to feed myself in the next, if it takes me 3 months to find it.
Right. Yeah. Because it definitely gives you flexibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where there's like, you know, your basic security and safety at the bottom, and your belongingness and everything. And you have to have a certain measure of that in order to be solid and be safe, for sure. Yeah.
One
So-
other thing to recognize in that, sorry to interrupt you,
No,
Karen.
go ahead.
One other thing to recognize in that is, and I love, Jennifer, when you just wrote, money can buy you options. And often we say money buys you freedom, right? Freedom of choices and options. But recognize that what you're really after are options or freedom. not money. And that's a really important distinction because once again, it allows us to take away that power that money seems to have. And really, if it's the options we're after, maybe money's not the reason for the options. We really actually still have a lot of options. I mean, even those beautiful people who you were working with, Sandra, they still and maybe had more options, than a lot of other people when they were living paycheck to paycheck. But recognizing when we say, what does money actually mean to you and what is it getting for you? That really what you're after is the options, not the money, and that you still can find those options despite the money. And I'm not taking away from the importance of saving. Absolutely. And being responsible with your money. But when we're trying to imagine how money has an impact on our happiness and our joy, and even our sense of security. So we might even say, well, money buys me security. But once again, it's not the money that we're after, it's the sense of security. And sense of security is still something that's established within. Because if any of us have ever had an experience, and I'm sure you can follow me on this, when you were 13, you probably had a number in your head of what would be financially secure and stable. And then at 19, that looked very different. And then when you bought a house, that looked very different. And even $100 to your 13-year-old self means a very different thing to yourself now. In fact, $100 looks very different depending. And I know, Shannon, you've done this exercise, depending on what you're paying for, right? $100 t-shirt is very different from $100 pair of earrings. So money itself isn't providing us the security. We create that security within ourselves. And it doesn't matter because that number is forever a moving target. So recognizing when you put value on money as being something that's buying you something like freedom or security, recognizing that that's actually what you're after, and noticing that that's what you provide for yourself. Sorry to cut you off, Karen. What were you about to say?
It's fine. I think I was just looking through my report and I was looking at the different, and I thought it was interesting that you started with money focus, Shannon. Where I feel like of all of the different categories, that one is so interlinked with who we are as a society, because like I'm in the process with a 15-year-old right now. He's getting ready to do his SAT soon, and he'll be going off to college in like a year and a half. But in terms of what I want to tell him, like what to do in life, you want a high paying job, you want to get a really good career. And even going through dental school, it's the thing that has always been beat into your head, your mantra of get a profession, security, all of these things. With the money focus, it's hard to get away from that in society because it's just so a part of everything we do in our being, right? But I think the money is the distraction, like you were saying. It's a distraction from the thing you actually are craving, the security, the happiness, the need to do well or do good for others. So that altruism that you want to give forth, that is really what you're pursuing. Money allows you the freedom to be able to sometimes do that on a scale that means more to you. So that's kind of like the tricky one for me.
That was beautiful. You just coached yourself through that. That was beautiful. Because you identified exactly that being, even the part of like doing something for loved ones. As Shannon was mentioning, the best thing we can do for loved ones is presence, full presence. That doesn't need to happen on the beaches of Hawaii. It can happen right in your living room. And so once again, I love that you use the word distraction because money does become a scapegoat, right? Oh, I couldn't be present with my 15-year-old because we weren't in Hawaii, or, I'm making something up, but you're absolutely right. It becomes the scapegoat or the distraction from what we're really hungering for.
Yeah, Morgan Housel, and I really love this book. It's called The Psychology of Money. I'll put it in here. But he talks about that. He says that money or time is the biggest dividend that money can pay. So time is really that one thing that we're really after, And people you start to notice like it through your life cycle. Money might be very important at the beginning where you're trying to, get your foundation settled. But as you go along, time becomes more of that precious commodity, and that's something that we can give to our loved ones. And it doesn't, like Taryn was saying, it doesn't really cost anything, to sit across from somebody and give them great eye contact and really be with them. Because if that's what we're all after, right? If that's what makes us most happy, and we have to remember that even for our children, even when they forget, right? my kids forget. Like, do you want presents? No, I want presents. But just bringing it back to that and realizing that's what's so precious, is our time. Oh, thank you, Taryn. Wonderful.
I have a money story I'll share.
Yes.
That was hard for me to come to terms with. And that was, you have to work hard for your money. That money is hard earned. And it showed up in my life when in my practice, my dental practice, I worked so hard to get this practice off the ground. And, when you're starting a practice, you're, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in the practice. And when we finally started making money, and my partner and I wrote ourselves our first check, and we were so excited. 3 months later, she said to me, Taryn, why haven't you cashed the check? Because I was loving what I was doing. It wasn't hard work anymore. I was enjoying, I had figured out how to practice with enormous happiness. So every day I was coming in, I was feeling alive, didn't feel hard work anymore. So I had a really hard time cashing that check because it felt too easy. And I realized it was because of that money story of, you have to really work very hard to earn money. Yeah.
Wow. That's really powerful. And I wonder, I'm just thinking in my own life, is that as kind of a subconscious driver that I have? That's a great one. So how can we take that money script and change that around to be like a positive affirmation? Because I love doing that. So how can we turn that into like a powerful, like, I'm trying to think, like, or money comes to me easily and with ease or whatever. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody have any suggestions of how to turn that around? Yeah, Vanessa.
Let me think about how to apply this exactly to what you were saying, but like I do this thing at the end of my morning meditation, which is kind of along the same lines, where I think if you just turn it into the affirmative versus it takes all the want and the need, like I need new clients. It's more a matter of thank you, like in feeling gratitude. Thank you for sending those. This is what I typically say. Thank you for sending those who seek the solutions we offer and who are ready to engage. So it's like I thank in advance, Divine, for making us a beacon that would like attract those that are looking for what we offer. But the key point too I started adding was like that are ready to engage. So it's not exactly what you're saying, but it was like, I think it's along those same lines of like, if when I think it's different than, I think like as a child, when I was taught to pray, it was more like asking and like, as if it wasn't already there or already on its way to me. I don't know. There's a definition, a difference in that in my mind. I'm probably like going down a rabbit hole here. Is this making sense? Or is this kind of where you're saying is like that whole idea of a mantra that would just like help put my mind in that frame of it's on its way, and that state of gratitude, I think, is what really pulls it in. That's how I could have said it more concisely.
Yeah, gratitude for sure. Yeah, I'm just thinking like instead of believing that hard work is required to make money, it's like the people that need my services are on their way right now.
And thank you for showing them that they're on their way. They'll find us, because the universe is rearranging itself in my best interest right now is another mantra. The universe is rearranging itself in my best interest right now. No matter what I see before me.
Wonderful. Yeah. Neat.
Yes, Sandra.
Or this is, you know, a Dave Ramsey thing is live like no one else. Live like no one else so you can live like no one else. Something like that. You know,
Yeah.
where, you know, in the beginning he says, you know, it's hot dogs and beans. You know, until you get to a point where you're debt free or you're, you know, where you need to be, and then you can afford filet mignon instead of always being in debt and, you know, living that way. He also has a saying about, you know, like giving and charity, which I can't think right now, but you know, he has helped me also a little bit. I don't believe in his no credit card thing, because that's my niche is, you know, going to going on a major trip every year with all my points.
We love your niche.
Yeah.
But you have to be, you know, disciplined and
Yeah.
know how to do it and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I like Dave Ramsey too, because I think the common thread is that you have to be able to go against the grain, you know, go against the grain of what everybody else is doing, comparing yourself to everybody else, and you have to do your own thing. You have to know what your goals are, what your values are, and work towards that, and just kind of ignore the noise, and your own noise, right? That's what the money scripts can be, your own noise. So both ways, it's yeah, you got to be that fish swimming upstream when it comes to these things. Yeah.
I know I've come across kind of like a mantra that I use in my meditations, and it's from Florence Scovel Shinn, metaphysician. And I think it goes, you can substitute whatever word you want, but what I usually say is I have a wonderful business in a wonderful way. I give wonderful service for wonderful pay. So it's going back to what you were saying about not cashing that check. It's like it's all tied in. It's for the wonderful work you did. And it's not that you have to work harder. This is all tied into the wonderful service you're giving to the universe or to someone else. And the pay is all connected to it. So I say that all the time. And it really does make me feel very optimistic. It makes me, you know, march to the beat of my own drum. And I just focus on the things that are meant divinely for me. Because whatever is meant for me is for me. I can never lose something that was meant for me. If I lose it, it was never meant for me to have. So it's that kind of thinking.
I love that. I love that.
That is so powerful. That's so powerful because it's energy ultimately, right? It's the energy that we're giving back, and it's going to come back. Like energy is either created or destroyed. It's going to cycle back.
Yeah.
So what's really interesting is when we're talking about money scripts, we really, in all aspects of our lives, when it comes to fear, have three subconscious fears that are universal. And if you really look at everything, it comes down to these three things, which is really interesting. Number one, I'm not safe. Number two, I'm not good enough. And number three, I don't belong. And really, each one of these new mantras that you suggested addresses one of those, even gratitude, because gratitude allows us to believe that it is possible for us. So I am good enough, right? So when you say thank you for something, you're acknowledging the receivership of it. We can't receive something if we don't feel worthy of it, which is why it's so important when someone tells you they love your hair or your dress, you say thank you, because it's the receivership of it that reminds yourself subconscious that you are worthy of that receiving. And that's one of the reasons why gratitude works so beautifully with your subconscious, because it's got a subconscious message to you that you're worthy of it. And the other one is safety. So another nice way to flip a money script is to use the word it is safe. So it is safe to make money with ease, right? For me, the fear was I got to be burning myself to the ground to make money. And so working on living with ease, reminding myself, oh, I am safe, right? Because we think that that's threatening our safety, when we've attached a value of hard work to the value of money. And then recognizing also that we belong. And I'm not sure with this particular context that works, but you'll notice that with some other, maybe we'll uncover some other money stories where that really fits. But when we feel like we're not belonging, that's where that money status really comes into play, is that speaking to a deep subconscious need to belong, because way back in the caveman days, we needed community. And we realized during COVID, with all the mental health struggles that so many of our youth were going through and still are struggling with when we were in isolation, we need community. We need one another, which is why I think this incredible study club that Shannon's created is so valuable, because we need these discussions about money, because community is so valuable. But that's where that subconscious need to belong is one that's so easily activated for us on a very deep level, and where money can often play in those money scripts. So reminding ourselves that I am good enough, I am safe, and I am worthy of this, and I still belong. And actually, you mentioned that from what you were saying there, Karen, in terms of that beautiful mantra you suggested, is also like, this is worthy. I'm worthy of this, right?
Wow. Amazing. Amazing.
Did anyone have any other money stories that we can play with, that we could flip?
I don't have a money story, but I was reading a magazine last night, and it was one of the topics was, what's the best money advice you've ever received? And so a lot of people, like, posted what their best money advice was. But the first one, just wanted to let you know, Shannon, it said to hire a financial advisor.
I can't argue with that.
So I had to add that, because there was a lot of good, things that kind of go along with what you're saying, which were good, but I had to make sure. But one of them that I thought was really good was, see anything when someone's in a store, see anything you like more than your money. So when you're in the store and you're looking at something, do you like that more than your money? What do you like more? So if you like your money more, then maybe you should leave that in the store.
Neat.
But and watch your pennies, and the dollars will take care of themselves. There's a lot of good little, tips like that. But I thought the one was the financial advisor one was perfect for you.
Thank you. I did not pay her to say that.
No, it's true. I have a girlfriend that for years I wanted to get her to start an IRA, and she kept saying how she can't make ends meet now, and and it was, I think it was like $40 a paycheck. And finally she got a financial planner who helped her realize that by putting that $40 a paycheck, which really is nothing, she would pay less in taxes and ultimately have more, so it really is important. And I can teach you how to floss really well, but I obviously didn't have the words to explain to her about money. So,
but it's just about like flossing, like you're trying to teach people how to, implement this really common sense habit, but people have their own resistances to it. People can be very resistant to change. Yeah. Which is why I have to study the psychology of money behind it, so that I can really help people. Because sometimes just, beating them over the head with common sense hasn't been proven to work. So that's why I have to go deeper. Yeah.
I love that.
This is so fascinating to me.
So Shannon, I have a question regarding, I guess, money vigilance. And for me, it's like kind of a personal thing where I've decided one of the things that I'm going to do this year, and I started doing it, was taking over, not all of it, but taking over my investments in terms of going into stocks. So I started doing a little bit of day trading and all of this other stuff. And my personality here for the money vigilance says that I'm medium, 3.25. And so every time I sit with my financial guy in his office and I tell him, he's like, do you want to be more aggressive? I'm like, no, I'm like, we want to hold on to these pennies and make sure they're working. But I feel like the score, and now that I'm doing day trading and taking these risks and alternative investments and all this other stuff, I'm enjoying it because it's based on becoming more knowledgeable. So I feel like I can participate in it because I know it's that perfection thing. Like if you know something more, you feel more confident with it. But it's such a paradox for me that I'm higher I'm medium, and I do think I'm vigilant with my money. But here I am doing this thing that seems risky. So I don't know how do you make sense out of that sometimes with personalities in terms of how you show up here in the money script, and how taking those bigger, riskier investments sometimes can take you closer to the goal that you're actually wanting to get with the money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like that you're a learner, you're a high achiever. So maybe you enjoy learning this and kind of mastering that. And so for people like that, I call it the sandbox account. Go ahead and have a sandbox account, but don't let that be your retirement savings, but go ahead and learn and play and enjoy trading, but don't let that be your whole thing. Because I think as human beings, we have a hard time actually assessing risk. We have a hard time with really small numbers. We have a hard time with really big numbers. So it's hard for us to assess risk, and we might not actually know the risk that we're taking, So that's something that we could talk about one-on-one.
Yeah,
for sure.
Fair enough. Trust me, the money guy, he's still there.
Yeah, okay, good.
His job is secured. But I guess it is kind of my sandboxing. That was
your sandbox account.
Great way of phrasing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's okay to have a little segment that you kind of play with and experiment with.
It actually brings up a really connecting to what we were talking about earlier. Sometimes that child in the basement just wants to play.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't always have to be a deviant side, a deviant shadow self. Sometimes that if you listen to that inner voice, she's just saying, I kind of just want to play and have an adventure, and allowing ourselves. And I love that idea of having a sandbox account and really giving ourselves an opportunity to just have fun with money. I mean, that really changes our whole relationship with money, and giving ourselves the safety around, okay, it's going to be this much. Like some people who go gambling and they say, I'm only going to spend $200. And then when I'm done with this $200, I'm done for the night. I'm going to see what I can grow. And if I lose it all, I lose it all. But we're creating a nice safety for ourselves with that number, this is the defined sandbox, but we're allowing that little kid out of the basement to come and play a little bit. And I think that's another great idea for people who have trouble spending money on themselves. We have so many of us that care for everyone else in the world who we would buy a house for our moms and for all our patients, but we have a hard time buying something nice for ourselves. And that same idea of just being quiet and listening and saying, oh, there is someone in there, my inner child, that does just want to play and see what would happen if I was a little risky with money. What would happen if I tried something that had a little higher risk tolerance than what I've traditionally been doing, and giving yourself some parameters to play and allow yourself to actually have fun.
Yeah, I love that. Anything else?
Any other common money stories that people have heard?
Oh, I do want to say one more thing about investments, though, because one of the common ideas in our culture is that women aren't good at investing, right? So I think that that's really good that you actually are playing in your sandbox account and investigating that and going against that belief. because it actually isn't true. And women actually outperform men when it comes to investing. Why? Because we don't trade as much, we're more patient, we research more thoroughly, and we're willing to collaborate and take advice. So I think I just wanted to mention that that's like a really pervasive money script that I just want to blow out of the water.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
That's nuts. You're like bringing up the feminist in me now. It's like, but yeah, we can handle the whole family income. Like who can manage all that? That's just nuts. Go girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to piggyback, and then let's listen to Jen's money story that she was going to offer. But often women entrepreneurs tend to hold our own glass ceilings over our own heads.
Wow.
By not charging enough for our services, by not asking enough. So isn't it interesting that that money story can follow in a more subconscious way, even to our own behavior patterns, when we're fighting against that glass ceiling and we're blaming everyone outside of ourselves? Once again, all judgment is self-judgment. And isn't that interesting? Taking a very close look where we're blaming money or other people's behavior with money is very often a mirror or a reflection of what is actually happening within ourselves. And when we can recognize that shadow within ourselves, it kind of dissipates everywhere else. You know, it's interesting if we tend to be fearful around, I don't know, critiquing people or controlling people, we start noticing everyone else who's controlling, and we start getting very judgmental of other people who are controlling. But once again, remembering all judgment is self-judgment, that is very easily a part of ourselves that's being identified. And once again, that little child banging up from the basement saying, you're afraid of being judgmental. And once we can release that of ourselves, or controlling rather, you're afraid that you might be controlling. Once we can forgive that part of ourselves and recognize that part of ourselves, we can release that of others. And I find that happens very often with women entrepreneurs who are beginning to put numbers on their services and limiting themselves and blaming everyone else for not paying women what they deserve. Jen, what was the money story you were going to talk about?
I would say can you hear me okay? Okay. I invested in a microphone, so this is my first go with it.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. So my money story, I would say, is something I've really worked on in the last year and a half, along with, I was working with Laura Brenner, and that's something that obviously comes up a lot with people who are unhappy in dentistry. And a lot of us want to cut back or get it all together. And we feel like we are, held in by the, golden handcuffs. And so it's something I worked on because we grew up, I don't know if I would say poor, but my dad was a blue collar worker. My mom worked part-time once myself and my two sisters were in school, as like in a school lunchroom. And I mean, I remember we would go get like the government block of cheese, and we could have been like on the, like getting the free school lunches, but my parents, were too proud to do that. So just to give you an idea, and my mom had her box of coupons, and so super frugal. I mean, I'm like trained to, if I go shopping, like go right to the sale rack, the clearance rack. But I've definitely worked on that, reading the books that you guys mentioned have helped a lot. And the end of 2021, somebody I followed social media did a great like 21-day abundance like meditation thing, and just saying like, I have abundance. And so I still definitely tend towards the like saving. I need to keep my money, but I've definitely learned to let go some. Like a couple things come to mind. One is last fall with like the Do retreat and some things like that coming up, and getting into the entrepreneur realm and having meetings is like, I mean, my husband's been telling me for a really long time that I need to update my closet. So finally last fall, I went to a store that I like some of their things, and I actually was like, let them help me, and they put things in the like dressing room, and I was trying things on, and certainly they knew what they were doing, trying to sell me, oh, here, try this jacket on. Like Vanessa knows, like the one leather jacket, it's like a fake leather, but it's not something I would pick for myself. Of course, they're like, put this on with that. And, and it's one of the very few times I didn't know if anything was on sale. I really didn't know what things cost. I did joke with the women when I checked out. I tried to think, okay, what do I need? I need like a couple of these outfits, and like this was going on. So I wasn't going too crazy, and then I checked out. I'm like, maybe don't tell me what the total is. And I always say new, like I've saved up a lot over time. And along the same lines, it's like we're finally going on a nice vacation to Ireland, and we've, saved up for these things. And it's like, yeah, on one hand, it's like, oh my gosh, like what is this trip costing us? But it's like, well, we were able to pay for it. And that's something I'm big on, like you said, experiences and wanting to travel. So it's like, okay, learning to let go. And we're, my husband and I were still working. So like we're getting more money. That was the other thing I realized in my money journey, was like being more in the abundance mindset versus scarcity, is like somehow money would come. I can't think of like the couple examples, but it wouldn't be the mega millions, but it might be like little bit of money here or there. And it's like, my husband's a little more religious, so I'm like spiritual, but he'll say like God, has always provided for us when we've had some of our struggles. Like he was unemployed at one point, and I took some time off at one point. But the other last thing with all of that is a book that I read that helped me too in my mindset is, I can't remember the author, but it was called Die with Zero. And actually a dental classmate mentioned it, and it was obviously nobody knows when our last day on this earth is going to be, but just basically the same idea, like you can't take it with you, so what are you saving it for? And kind of planning for that. So that helped a lot. Yeah, I mean, along the same line. Yeah, so those things have helped me. So yeah. Thank you.
I love that. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Wonderful.
So recognize one of the things that you mentioned, Jen, is that that constriction that Vanessa was talking about. You noticed it, like, ooh, I don't know if I want to see this number, or we're going on this great trip, but ooh. So another thing you could do is just take a moment to be quiet with yourself. And what's so interesting, Shannon mentioned this right at the beginning of when we were talking, with that iceberg analogy. The conscious mind, we can keep telling ourselves, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. But it's the subconscious that's telling us, oh, this is scary. This is unsafe. You've never done this before. And one of the things that's important to remember with our subconscious mind is our subconscious mind loves familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And it really gets uncomfortable in the unfamiliar. So I've never had a pretty woman moment before. So this is new and unfamiliar. I love that, Karen. Thank you.
Yeah.
So now my system's getting activated, right? And then creating safety for yourself. Remember, that's really the core of it always is, I'm safe. I've saved this money. I've created this money. And, without doing like some nice subconscious work with you here and diving in under hypnotherapy, which I'd love to do with you sometime around this around the subject, but without doing it, yeah, that's the fun stuff, right? We can if you like, but I don't want to keep everyone here too long. But one of the things that you can do for yourself is remember that a belief, because thoughts are of our conscious mind and beliefs are of our subconscious mind. And all a belief is a thought we keep thinking. Sound familiar, Vanessa, from one of our favorite mentors and gurus who we listen to? But all a belief is a thought you keep thinking. So on one level, that's really true. if we keep telling ourselves a new mantra, we can really change our belief system. And so, does it take a little bit more work when it's talking about fear and events that might have happened in your childhood? Absolutely. And some of those need us to do some of the hypnotherapeutic subconscious changes, which only takes 15 minutes. We don't have to do like 6 months of hypnotherapy, but we can also do it for ourselves when we identify it. Like, ooh, I noticed these 2 moments in time where I was spending a little bit more money on me than I usually do. And intellectually, I set aside that money. We created the sandbox. You defined the sandbox, you made the sandbox. So then reminding yourself, it is safe. It is safe to enjoy this moment with these beautiful women in the store. It is safe to go on this vacation with my husband. And when you feel that constricting moment, taking that time again, maybe with some breathing exercises, maybe when you're in the car in Ireland and on those narrow roads, and you're like, oh my God. But giving yourself a moment to just close your eyes and do that breathing exercise and ask your inner child, what is this? Why am I feeling this moment? And listen for the answer. And if it is, you've never spent this money on me before, and is this being irresponsible? Letting her know, you know what, you're totally safe, sweetheart. I've got you. I am a grown woman making good money. I've set aside good amount. I've been very responsible with this, and you're safe. And instantly we can remind ourselves, like, this is actually enjoyable and fun. And then giving ourselves like even a mantra on your vacation. Maybe that's even like something you journal every morning, like, this is amazing. And I love the gratitude. I am so grateful that I can do this for us. I'm so grateful that this is affording us this beautiful opportunity. And reminding yourself that it's familiar that feels safe. So, can we make it familiar? We actually have so much power. We can make uncomfortable things feel familiar just by those practices of journaling or mantras or affirmations.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Taryn, what was the third like subconscious belief that you talked about? The first one is I am enough, right? I am safe.
And then I belong.
I belong,
Right. It's that community importance, right? Because when I think I started saying, and then I cut myself off, I apologize. In the caveman days, if you were alone out in the woods, you were dead. If you didn't have a community looking after you, healing your wounds, if you injured your leg, or, finding food for you or watching you when you were sleeping, you were as good as dead. So we want to belong in a community. If you were ostracized from your community, you were dead. So we want to always feel like we belong. That's why keeping up with the Joneses seems to be important with us when it comes to money, or buying the right kind of bag, or having the right kind of outfit, or it's because we want to belong to a community. So reminding ourselves that we belong, and the most important person who we need to belong to is ourselves. Right? Nothing else matters. Right. So reminding ourselves that we belong, and where we belong is right here, right with ourselves, and it buys a lot into the idea of being good enough. Those two are very closely related, but so is the safety part, right? They all are very intricately connected, but sometimes that can allow us to flip that money script a little bit when it matters in terms of belonging. They'll still love me, even if I don't have the Louis Vuitton bag, or even if I,
And if they don't, who wants them?
Right. I wonder how this plays into parenting and money, which could be its own separate session, right? But I think a lot of times that feeling of wanting to belong or taking care of everybody else before we take care of ourselves, I wonder if that's related to that fear of not belonging,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the big difference when we're talking about parenting children, as parents, we are creating that safety for our children. or as children, that's what we looked to our parents to provide. And so many of our money stories might have been created because that instability or insecurity was being modeled for us by the people who were supposed to be making it safe. But here's the great thing is even if you had that experience in a very unstable childhood, you're now an adult and you get to create that safety for yourself. And that's where that's where our money scripts are so important, our money stories, because it's that little kid saying, I'm terrified, I'm really scared. When we spend money on ourselves, that's wasteful. Right? That's what my mom taught me. I can't go and buy the clothes that are not on the sales rack because that's wasteful. So you're scaring me by buying that trip to Ireland. You're scaring me. So recognizing that no longer do we have to rely on the adults in our lives. We get to parent ourselves through this and remind ourselves, sweetheart, I've checked the bank account. We're okay. We're okay. And really interesting how we saw this play itself out during COVID with a lot of business owners who's suddenly, and I'm sure Vanessa, you saw this with speakers, like suddenly your opportunity to make money dropped away. And it was sparking a lot of fear in a lot of people. And that's where we get to come in again and reparent ourselves. That inner child, the inner child freedom process is enormously powerful because it allows us to recognize the power that we have as fully grown adults, intellectual, brilliant, fascinating, unique human beings with dreams and goals and incredible talents, to take that child and say, no, right now you're safe in my hands. We don't have to live by those old stories from your childhood because we don't need anyone else to create the safety. In fact, it's our responsibility to create the safety for ourselves. Yeah.
Amazing. I feel so incredibly nourished by you, and it's just so amazing.
By all of you. This is so great. I love the discussion. I've heard several other topics for your study club here this evening,
Right?
by the way. I think we have some really good, I'd love a parenting one. Like, I want to know how to teach my kids better money scripts or money practices. And I think another fascinating one would be this women entrepreneurial relationship with money, don't you think?
Charging what you're worth. Yeah,
Yes.
that's a big one. That's a really big one.
Yes, that would be really good.
Great.
Ooh, spousal differences and paths. Karen, yes.
Wow. Wow. For sure. For sure. That's a big one. That's one I see almost every day. Yeah. Wonderful. I love this, all these spin-offs. Cool. Does anybody have anything else to share? Other than that, I have a giveaway. I have an exciting giveaway. Okay, so I put your names in this wheel of names. So I'm in the wheel of names generator. So I'm just gonna spin it and see.
Vanessa loves a game.
It's Vanessa. It's Vanessa. So
Are you
Vanessa.
serious? I just attracted that because I was like, yay, a game.
You absolutely did.
So you are the lucky winner of the Black Book. So this is such a wonderful tool. And I know you know Lindsay Van Sickle too. She's absolutely fabulous. And she came up with this wonderful concept. And this is a shred journal. So talk about befriending your subconscious and befriending the child within and reparenting. You can write anything you want, anything that you might be afraid to write down, and you can shred it. This is meant to be destroyed. And so she has some wonderful prompts in here, but this would also be great for if you're like uncovering your money stories, because we don't get to them all today, right? You might, I don't want to use the word triggered, but you might be, was it the word stimulated?
Activated.
Activated. You might be activated. Something might come up in your life and you're activated and you're like, oh, wait, is that a belief? Let me journal about that. Let me get that out. And so I'll send this to you, the Black Book, and any of you want to check this out too, this is really great. She's a wonderful woman, and she came up with this wonderful idea, the Shred Journal. Just really fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Good.
You guys have all been amazing this evening. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. And, you know, I know that one of the things I admire most in this mission that Shannon has is just to create a community and a conversation around money and to take the taboo away from doing so. So thank you, Shannon, for holding this space for all of us.
Oh, of course, of course. I love it. Yes, look around you. This is your community. These are the women that you can call upon and get feedback and get support. So we're all here with the same mission, and we're on the same journey. So thank you. All right. Thank you so much, Taryn. Oh man, you're just fantastic.
So fun. That was wonderful. Thanks, guys.
Thank you
you, Shannon.
all. All right. Take care.
Oh,
Bye.
bye-bye.
Have a good night.